So last week, all right, now I normally sit where Mitchell's sitting, and there's a couple of computers. Well, there's 3 computers and a mix console and an audio mix console. And last week we forgot to push the record button on the archive. So if you take a look at last week's archive, the video is pretty bad. And we're going to test tonight. We're going to test the Ustream, and we're going to do it again. And
well, you'll remember why I suggested Ustream in the first place. I knew nothing about it, but Mitchell comes in and sets up.
And he had a bunch of people that were sitting talking to him.
I got to put it. He comes in and he sets up on my computer over there, brings up a thing, this Acer Madness thing, and the next thing I know, I'm watching Mitchell in his bedroom because he's got this notepad or whatever it is, netpad, which has a webcam right there.
Yep.
And you could actually log in on this webcam, and they could have your picture in the middle there.
I could show the picture. Yep, we could.
And he's got, and over the next 8-hour period, he had 105 people or 125 people or something log in and join his deal. And people were joining as co-hosts, and we could see them in their living rooms and their bedrooms and their basements all over North America. And there were people from everywhere. And it wasn't an advertised, it was just a thing that people hit.
It happened. It was a happening. It's an online happening. And Facebook and Twitter. And
so what we have here right now is we're using that same topic. And then Harvey Cohen, when I phoned him yesterday, said he's using Ustream. And does this work out to the 3rd or the 4th different method we've used now?
This is the 4th.
The 4th.
This is the 4th different thing.
So since last March, we have used 4 different methods to broadcast this program.
The technology has changed so dramatically. Well, just in the year that we've been doing this, but in the 4 years since we put together the live streaming internet hooked up webcam in the Eagle's Nest, this possibility didn't exist. The technology didn't exist, and there was not a service provider who actually provided a free live viewing, advertising supported viewing system. WildEarth.tv and Zap Live TV with them in front of them have done that kind of thing for the long-term wildlife, where it's all ad supported, and the Hancock Wildlife Foundation is earning some money. My understanding from looking around in the Ustream here is when we get our audience numbers up and show them that we're actually real honest-to-God content as opposed to copyright violations that have been put up there by somebody else, they will actually turn around and give us a percentage of the ad revenue as well.
I'm looking at this netbook, which you've got on your lap.
Yep.
And that's the show as it is.
Yes.
And it's got a whole bunch of time lags on it in terms of it's not as good a
this
picture
is jerky.
as we were doing.
Part of the problem is that this little thing just doesn't have the power.
So it's this
machine. How's the video over there, Mitch?
It's not running on this because it's on the same connection, but I'm checking out.
Because
you need a fair amount of power on your PC in order to decode the flash video in real time.
Okay.
And so when it doesn't have a lot of power, as these little netbooks don't.
Actually, if you press function space, it should until it says high performance. Right now it's battery saver.
Function space. Super performance. Oh. So we're saving the battery because it's not powered. It's not plugged into a real 110.
Yeah, it's not plugged in, but it still has 5 hours on it.
Oh, okay.
Super performance.
Well, that'll speed it up a little bit, but it hasn't sped it up too much.
Okay, so I'm just trying to figure out, this is for the audience, and this is an introductory to what we're doing and what you can do, because you can actually take any computer you've got with a webcam.
Firefox, well, it requires Windows NT, Vista, or Windows 7 in order to run. Can't run this on Linux, even though I've got Firefox.
You can run it on Mac.
Can run it on a Mac. Okay. Which doesn't make a lot of sense to me because there's not a lot of difference between a Mac and Linux. It's 95% Linux, 95% open source. But
so
Apple's done the.
You can, if you've got Vista, Windows 7, Windows NT, or a Mac, you can run this program out of your
Firefox or Internet Explorer.
Yeah.
Or Chrome, that's right, Google Chrome.
Google Chrome.
And once you've got that, you can hook up your little golf ball webcam or the built-in webcam like this one, or if you've got a FireWire port or a USB port, you can hook up your typical...
Click the join as co-host.
No,
No, that's fine. We're not
the
going to do
very
that.
first time that I saw it, again, Mitchell using the same machine. He's at his university class on Egyptian history.
Yep.
He turns this thing around towards the professor teaching at the front of the room, gives me a call and says, "Dad, log into Acer Madness."
Yep.
And the next thing I know, I'm watching this teacher talk about the Egyptian pyramids. I had full sound, a
Yep.
good picture.
Yep.
It was better than classrooms on, it was
Well,
amazing quality.
We are going to talk about some of the things to do with whether or not that's legal, whether or not you can do that kind of thing without a license. Did you know? Okay. I'm not going to make you play dumb. Last week we talked about a bunch of things. So last week we talked about the fact that Italy is trying to get through pass a law that would require anybody who uploads video to the internet in Italy to be licensed. You have to pay a license fee in order to upload video.
I remember my mother and father paying $2 a year for a license to have a radio in the house.
Well, in Britain,
I'm
you
old.
still do the same thing
I'm
in Britain.
old.
But there's a difference between...
And the license inspector came to the house and counted your radios.
Yes. Well, just like telephone inspector used to come to your house and count your telephones because they owned them all. At least that's what they said anyway.
They said they did, yes.
We're in a technology revolution that is completely different from, you know, the communications revolution of the end of the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s.
Didn't they count the telephones in your house by detecting the power of the ring when they dialed the number and how much power was taken
but
from
if
the
you were
ringing tone?
smart like me, you disconnected the bell.
Right, you disconnected the bell. Yeah, I thought I was right about that. I remember that being a factor.
I was a bad boy. I had a telephone that I'd pulled apart and the case wasn't anywhere to be found. The bits and pieces of it were spread throughout my desk.
Oh,
you opened up the top drawer on the left-hand side and the dial was in there. And then the right-hand side was where the handset was. And all the rest of the guts were buried down in the
And
back.
you haven't stopped yet, have you?
No, but the point is that somebody turned me in.
Yeah. Do you know what I thought was funny? Is last night we went out to Roadkill Radio.
Yes, we did.
To
Yep.
Fiasco Brothers, Leno Sanik's Fiasco Brothers
Yep,
studio.
over at 8th and 20th.
Yeah,
in New
8th and
Westminster.
20th. And of course I drove by the corner of 10th and 12th
Yes.
at that point to get there.
Yep.
And that's where our old friend Hoffman, remember
Andy Hoffman,
Andy
that's
Hoffman
right, yep.
used to run his pirate radio station.
That's right.
And his pirate radio
That's
station.
still illegal.
I know, but he had a pirate. I'm going to tell the story because it's so long ago. It's got to be statute barred. Andy had a pirate radio station on the top of the hill in that one building at the corner of 10th and Kingsway and 12th, or corner in Burnaby,
Yep.
border between Burnaby and
Yep.
US
In the apartment where the downstairs is the jukebox place.
Yep. And he was upstairs.
Or pinball
And
place.
he had a broadcast studio that he was running a radio program. Internet didn't exist at that point, although it sort of did, but it didn't.
Yep.
And he would broadcast his signal and he'd bounce it off the West Coast Transmission Building, or he'd bounce it off the Royal Towers.
Yep. He'd bounce it off various buildings so that when they came looking for him,
They would
the
look
signal
for
was
him in
coming
those
from the wrong
buildings or
direction.
and everywhere. And at the same time, I can still remember he's in our office on Capilano Mall, 1986,
Yep.
and this is what he's doing. And I'm doing the tax return for one of the guys that's out looking for him.
Yes.
And I'm asking what he's doing. He's talking about he's worked for Transport Canada or whatever it was, and had one of those cars with the directional aerial on
Yep.
top of the car that they
You
turned
still
around.
see them running around occasionally.
And he was looking for Andy's pirate radio station, and Andy was right there.
Yep.
And it was so funny because he didn't. I was just doing his tax return, asking what he did.
Yep.
So he starts talking. I found out he was the guy. He was the one looking for Andy. Andy never did get caught. Anyway, went to Costa Rica. So what we're talking about is some of the early days of this stuff, because last week when you were here, we held up a Model 100 and did the Bill
Yep.
Gates story, and that's on our archives, so we don't need to do that again. And we didn't talk about something last week, which was also one of the starts of all
Okay.
this, and that was also 1986. And we had Amiga frame grabber,
Yes.
number 8. The
We
number
had a hand-wired
It had spaghetti wire here, there, and
PC
everywhere.
add-in card that went
Yep.
into the Amiga computer,
Yep.
little microcomputer. And onto that you could plug a camera,
A frame grabber.
and it grabbed individual frames from the camera
Took
at
a
about
picture.
10 frames a second, I think
Talk
they
about
got up
space
to,
age.
and compressed it, and then you could send that picture over a dial-up telephone line.
You could.
And it was kind of like space age.
Yeah,
It didn't quite fit on your wrist.
Well, not
Well,
even close.
we didn't talk about my Timex watch
Well,
here
we're not gonna
with
bother
the
with that.
camera on it,
Yeah.
but you know that's the Dick Tracy camera.
Now remember, this is before Mitchell was born.
That's right.
1986.
That's right.
Expo, year of Expo.
Year of Expo.
And we started doing this because Pat Westfall wanted a security
He wanted a
thing
security
for
system that he could see the picture